Have you ever asked yourself if the world has always moved as quickly as it does now? I mean, you think back to previous generations and, who had to get their news via the newspaper or the radio or, the evening news. And where we are today, where things happen and you know about it as it's happening, live, real life. How does that affect, what you do with your money, what you do with your stack? It's actually really crazy. And it dawned on me that, there's so many different things going on that, the stacking community may not be aware of, not for any particular reason other than you have a real life. You have to go to work. You have to take care of your family, all the things that life is made up of. But looking at where we are right now, one of the main things that I think is really interesting is economically, for better or for worse, doesn't matter your political party, the economy is very strong. I mean, record low unemployment, strong GDP, consumer spending's very high, manufacturing still strong. There's a lot going on, that's positive. But, if you turn on certain media, they're going to tell you, how rotten everything is. Again, I've said it time and time again, just because the economic numbers may say one thing doesn't mean it translates into your real life, in any particular way. But one of the things that kind of, strikes me is back in August, the stock market in particular, has kind of taken a hit the last, 2.5 months up until the last 10 days. But it took a pretty good hit, maybe 9% loss in the stock market. What people don't realize is back in August, the stock market was within a week, 2 weeks, normal market performance of hitting the all-time highs again and going higher. That's how close the market was to hitting, again, all-time highs. Now, it went down for 2.5 months straight. 10 days, it's recovered almost everything it's lost in those 2 months and looks pretty well positioned to continue going higher towards the all-time highs. Why is that important? Why does it matter? Who cares? No, it absolutely does matter, because if that would have happened, if it happened soon, I guarantee 90% of the public will be shocked. Wait a second. What do you mean the stock market hit all-time highs? I thought it crashed and, everything's terrible. Why is the stock market... This is exactly what is going to happen. It will happen at some point. The stock market, normal market behavior, doesn't matter who's in office or this or that or none of, all the different things people attribute to it. No, the stock market will hit all-time highs in short order at some point. When it does, the vast majority of people, stackers included, are going to be just caught off guard. The narratives, what are you going to say? Again, we know that President Trump loved to talk up the stock market as if it was a reflection of the economy. Make no mistake, the stock market is not a reflection of the economy. I don't care what angle you want to take on it. Well, it reflects corporate profits in it. No. It does not reflect any of those things. The market is completely disconnected with fundamental anything at this point. It is literally a reflection of the cheap money that we've had for the last 15 years. Period. There is no fundamental analysis of companies that should be valued the way they are. It's purely hype and cheap money that's caused the stock market to be where it is and will continue to make it go higher. Now, the second part of that is you think about all of the headwinds that the stock market's had, going against it, all the reasons it should be, much lower than whatever it is. And don't mistake that for something that's just right now. This has been going on for, again, 15 years. The market shouldn't be anywhere near price-wise where it is right now, except for the cheap money, except for endless cheap money. But where I was going with that is that this market, again, big factors like last year, 50-year high for corporate profits, yet the stock market went down. If the market reflected the actual realities of what's going on, that wouldn't have happened. Here we are again. It may come to pass that the stock market actually ends up going into record territory and hitting record high after record high after record high. End of this year into next year, when in fact the economy really is slowing down, which would be normal. Again, throw your politics out the window. How does that play for silver? What does that mean for silver and gold? Well, okay, so let's think about this. Again, the big thing with the markets is you have to understand that there's a finite amount of money out there. There's a finite amount of purchasing power that can go into any assets. Now, who controls the stock market? Well, sure as hell isn't the president. But the big players, the big firms, the market makers, if you will, institutional buyers, your investment banks, your Merrill Lynch, your JP Morgan, your Vanguard, your BlackRock, these firms that have huge stakes, they do, can move the market in one way or the other. It's interesting. I was watching a video of talking about Vanguard and BlackRock and how people say that, oh my God, they're so woke. They're going woke. Look at these CEOs of these companies, and it's comedy. It is comedy because these narratives that you hear, it's really like geared. It's so funny. It's like if you know how like people who know nothing about cars, they go to the mechanic and the mechanic's telling them your flux capacitor's out and you need two, your secondary battery is not ridiculous, but you don't know anything about it, so you take their word for it. That is exactly what it is when people talk about these things. Now, again, for example, there's an interview with the CEO of BlackRock, I think it was, that was talking about corporate social responsibility and different initiatives and things like that. And to the lay person, who doesn't understand how the markets work, how investments work, how fund companies work, they think, oh, this person can just pursue their agenda with their capital and just throw money at same thing you hear about George Soros and this and that. Stupidity. Honestly, it's just borderline stupidity. The reality is with these companies, especially the large fund companies, they have different funds that have different objectives. That, again, think of a company like Vanguard, which is another one that people say, oh, it's so woke. It's going woke. It was so hilarious. Think of an S&P 500 index fund. Its objective is to track the performance of the index. There's no woke aspect to it. There's no social. It's ridiculous. And it's the same for a lot of the other funds. Now, again, the CEO or some other person may have their own slant on whatever they believe, just like everyone else, right? You have your way that you view things and what's, good or bad or whatever. That doesn't mean that it translates into the business that they run. Now, there are certain facets I'm sure they could, try to come out with different initiatives, but that is not the day-to-day. That is not the operation here. And it's funny to think about. Again, back to silver and metals, silver, gold, etc. What's going to happen most likely is metals are probably going to crater back down to where they were pre-pandemic. Why? Why would that happen? Because money chases return. Money always chases return. And if it isn't coming from metals, if the fear narrative and the this and the that starts to go away, again, the stocking community is so obsessed with, oh, the dollar's going to go away and blah, 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 blah. No. Not in your lifetime, not in mine, and probably not our kids' lifetimes. The dollar is here to stay for the long haul. Now, may it take different forms, like a digital currency or things like that? Who knows? But the dollar, the institution of the dollar, is here to stay, barring the asteroid coming down or the rapture. If the economy does start to taper down and slow down, which again is normal, it has nothing to do with politics. If the economy does slow down from, where it is currently, monetary policy will ease, meaning interest rates come down. When that happens, fixed income is no longer attractive. The treasuries, the CDs that people have been buying, the money markets that are making a killing right now, those things become less attractive as rates come back down. What becomes more attractive? The stock market. Hey, you know what? I need to go back to old faithful, the stock market, to make, any semblance of a return. That is going to happen again. And it will happen so quickly that it will surprise the vast majority of people. Now, as far as interest rates, they're probably going to go down over a few years. Maybe not to the zero that they were, pre-pandemic, but they'll go back down to a more quote-unquote normal range. As they do, those are the normal mechanisms of, money, period. And end of story. If that happens, Money comes out of metals. There's no need to hold so much gold. There's no need to hold so much blah, 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 silver. The other part is, if economically there's a slowdown, silver, the industrial metal, you would think would start to come down in price. So why would you be buying silver right now? What is the purpose of having, so much silver? I mean, realistically, it's always good to kind of hedge your bets and dollar cost average into anything within reason. But if you're buying expecting a big run up, if you're listening to people saying that the dollar's going to end and this is going to happen, they've been singing that song for decades, probably longer, and it's not going to happen. It's just not. The more time passes, the more things stay the same. The further we get out from the pandemic, there's going to be things like Israel, Gaza. Is it really that big a deal? Probably not. Not to us here, as spoiled as we are. I think so much, I think about things like, I feel very fortunate to be born an American. And I always wonder, if other countries have this sense of entitlement that you're born with here. Now, that's not meant to say that, I feel like I deserve, free things or things like that. That's not an entitlement. I think it's also funny that people say that Social Security and things like that those are entitlements. They're called entitlements. Are they? I mean, I paid into them. So if you want to give me a refund, then by all means, then take away that aspect to it, and then it's not an entitlement. Hilarious things like that. But I wonder, if you're born in Canada or you're born in Mexico or Italy or France, some of those countries I would assume have a little chip on their shoulder. But is it the same as what we experience here in America? Is it really because when you're born here in America, I mean, for better or for worse, there is a sense of entitlement. There's no doubt about it. And anybody who, kind of scoffs at that, you're not being honest with yourself. It's a crazy world that we live in. But again, things happen to change so fast that if you miss it, just like 2008, 2010, 2011, when people were saying, damn, I should have bought a house. Look at it now. It's much the same environment. You just can't, predict what the next thing's going to be, what's going to be the best return, where the best bang for your buck is. The big question, though, is it going to be in metals? Maybe, maybe not.